The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
Typically, that's something that our well-intended educators have not thought through.
Unimaginable tragedy at a Minneapolis Catholic school when a gunman opens fire on praying staff and students. National school safety expert Dr. Ken Trump details how emergency training differs in this type of setting.
I think crime will be the big subject of the midterms.
The Trump administration doubles down on its plans for law and order. The harsh punishment hinted at for violent offenders as Republicans hone in on their midterm message. And
if they're ahead of us in AI, they will become the dominant military power.
A technological arms race for global domination. How the Trump administration is staying one step ahead of China in AI innovation. From the nation's capital, this is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We're glad you're here with us. On this weekend edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week, and we look ahead at what to expect, starting with the 4 big stories we've been following this week. The Trump administration continues its crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C. Cracker Barrel reverses course on a logo change amid intense backlash. The White House pushes forward with its immigration policy, and a Chinese espionage operation is found to have targeted over 600 telecom firms in 80 countries. But first, new developments as we learn more about the tragedy this week as a shooter opens fire on children praying in a Minneapolis Catholic school church. 2 children were killed, 15 others wounded, all between the ages of 16 and 15 years old. 3 adults were also wounded, though officials say all those hurt are expected to survive. The FBI is investigating the shooting as a hate crime and as an act of domestic terrorism, as local authorities say the shooter left hundreds of pages expressing hate towards several groups of people.
More than anything, the shooter wanted to kill children, defenseless children. The shooter was obsessed with the idea of killing children.
The shooter graduated from the school in 2017 and died by suicide. In light of this tragedy, earlier this week, I spoke with national school safety expert Dr. Ken Trump. Hear his message to school leaders, parents, and students. National school safety expert Dr. Ken Trump joining us now for more on the mass shooting at a Minneapolis church. And obviously, there are no words tonight for the parents and the students and the community affected by this. I've heard sound from these kids. One said he is familiar with the school training, but not in the mass in the church. How does emergency planning in this type of school setting, this Catholic school, how does that differ from other schools?
Well, faith-based settings are very unique. I've done a good deal of work over my decades in this field in Catholic, Jewish, and other school settings. And you have hundreds of kids and adult staff coming into one location, oftentimes with parishioners, parents, the community attending the same mass. The structures, the church is actually attached to the school in many cases physically. So who gets in? Who's monitoring? Access control, who's not monitoring in the room, but actually outside in the hallways and around the building and not participating in the rituals.
You mentioned access control. That is so critical, all of it. But the Minneapolis police chief said on the outside, at least one door was blocked. What are the options?
Yeah, that's really the challenge, even knowing how to lock the doors. So you have to have these conversations as school staff, particularly when you have unique settings like a faith-based site that is different from a public school, independent school, or other type of typical school setting, because it's a very unique environment. But it's also one that people have a hard time getting their arms and heads around, that they would even have to have that conversation. So oftentimes it gets pushed to the back burner because people just don't want to have the conversation and to drill in that type of sacred type of a setting.
I mean, that's absolutely right. These families, these children, they woke up, you know, so happy this is their safe place, and tragedy strikes. And sadly, there are now fears of copycats. Many are just starting the school year, as you know. What is your message to school leaders and to parents to keep their campuses safe?
Well, one active shooter is certainly one too many, but we need to understand that these are low probability, high impact occurrences. Fortunately, the vast majority of schools will never have an active shooter. Make sure you're looking at day-to-day school safety issues with bullying, aggressive behavior, but most of all, look on the prevention side where you're providing social, emotional, mental health supports to kids, having basic security measures in place with access, training your staff, spending the time on the people. And we know that there's a focus on target hardening, the physical security hardware and technology. Really, the key rests with our people. The number one way we find out about weapons plots, people are going to cause harm, is when somebody comes forward and tells an adult that they trust.
So frightening to think about, but as you mentioned, these conversations are critical. National security safety expert Dr. Ken Trump, thank you for joining us tonight on the National News Desk. Over the last week, at least a dozen universities nationwide have reported receiving fake alerts of active shooters on campus, bringing added panic and turmoil as students begin the school year. Swatting calls like these are nothing new, and experts say they are becoming more difficult to trace due to advancing technology. To address these challenges, the FBI established a virtual online command center in 2023 that allows state and local authorities to report swatting incidents. Taking a look over our nation's capital, where President Donald Trump says he will seek the death penalty for murders committed in Washington, D.C. The announcement part of a wider effort to assert control over law enforcement in our nation's capital, an effort that appears more and more likely to expand to other cities. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell.
I think crime will be the big subject of the midterms. The Republicans are the party that wants to stop crime. We're against crime. The Democrats like crime.
President Donald Trump returning to a long-held complaint about, quote, liberal cities and high crime, signing an executive order Monday establishing specialized units in the National Guard to deal with what he calls a crime emergency in D.C. It's a sign of an expanding role for the U.S. military in domestic law enforcement.
Mr. President, do not come to Chicago.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker responding to threats that Chicago is next.
This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals.
Some Democrats insisting the law and order narrative that's often been a winning one for tough on crime Republicans should not be a priority for them.
Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans. And then go to the policy proposals that we think work.
Those policy proposals, though, don't appear to be sinking in yet with voters. A Harvard-Harris poll taken last week found 54% say Trump's actions in Washington, D.C. are justified and necessary, even though crime statistics show drops in violent crime in all of the cities Trump has targeted, including D.C., Baltimore, New York, and Chicago.
We've done well in the city of Chicago. That's because our economy is doing well. We're paying working class people more, investing in our schools, investing in prevention programs. That's what we need. We do not need a militarization of our streets.
Here on Capitol Hill, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee have crime reporting numbers in their sights, just launching an investigation into what they're calling manipulated and inaccurate crime data by the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Yep, I'm being detained because I expressed my First Amendment right to burn the United States flag in public, not causing harm or causing any danger to any citizens or personnel in the area.
A man was arrested Monday after burning an American flag in front of the White House. He said he is a 20-year combat veteran who did it to protest President Donald Trump.
You have the right to stand up for yourself. You have the right to push back when our president is trying to put in these illegal laws. You have the right to let yourself be heard, and you have the right to burn the flag if that's what you choose to do.
Park police say it is illegal to light a fire on land controlled by the National Park Service except in designated areas. The incident came just hours after Trump signed an executive order enacting stricter penalties for flag burning. In 1989, the Supreme Court ruled flag burning is a protected form of speech under the First Amendment. Two top Justice Department officials are expected to face fierce questioning from Congress amid fallout over the administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. FBI Director Kash Patel is set to testify on September 17th, followed by Attorney General Pam Bondi on October 9th. Senior Republicans have continued to press the Trump administration to unseal more Epstein documents. The DOJ started transmitting some of them last week in compliance with a subpoena. The White House is expected to tap Jim O'Neill, the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services, to serve as acting CDC director. During his confirmation hearings for his previous role, O'Neill insisted he's pro-vaccine. Wednesday, Dr. Susan Menares was fired from the leadership position. According to the Washington Post, she reportedly pushed back against Kennedy's plans to overhaul federal vaccine policy. Coming up is rolling back what some describe as woke policies good for business, how it worked for Cracker Barrel and other major companies now making changes. Plus, a Beijing-backed espionage operation now determined to be way worse than initially thought. Why investigators are calling it one of the most sophisticated attacks they've ever seen. Is rolling back what some describe as woke policies good for business. For Cracker Barrel, the numbers are undeniable. Following the company's rebranding announcement, its market value plummeted $100 million. But after scrapping the plans, shares skyrocketed. Cracker Barrel, just the latest example of a company reversing course. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, has more.
If you take a look at companies like American Eagle, Target, and even Bud Light, you can see how recent marketing campaigns either positively or negatively impacted revenue. Some embracing what's described as woke policies, others sticking to what's more accepted on the cultural right. Earlier this month, Cracker Barrel announcing it's rolling out a new campaign with a text-only logo.
So long, my friends. It's been a real pleasure knowing y'all.
But the decision resulting in massive backlash, some saying the restaurant has gone woke and abandoned American values. President Trump even writing on Truth Social, Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo and admit a mistake. Well, the company listened, reversing course and as a result, snapping a 7-day losing streak on the NASDAQ, shares jumping 8%, following a loss of nearly $100 million.
You do a brand change on woke on a battleground stock, and you're going to get creamed.
But Cracker Barrel isn't alone. In 2023, Bud Light faced boycotts and massive conservative backlash after launching a promotional campaign with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney.
I got some Bud Lights for us.
Forbes reporting the company lost over $27 billion in value and 30% of its customers. A former Anheuser-Busch executive saying it's still working to recover.
Millions of customers, billions of dollars of shareholder value over the last couple years.
And who can forget the American Eagle outrage following its Great Jeans campaign with actress Sydney Sweeney.
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn.
Despite the backlash, the company refusing to apologize, instead embracing the marketing strategy. Shares even surging over 23% after President Trump wrote on Truth Social, Sweeney has the hottest ad out there. Now, dozens of other companies spanning several different industries have also decided to roll back DEI policies this year as well. Some include Meta, McDonald's, Walmart, Ford, and also Disney. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Push it, push it, push it. Hard, hard, hard.
Two police officers and a neighbor jumped into action Monday morning when a fire broke out in a New Jersey home. An 8-year-old boy was stranded upstairs without an escape route. The three heroes can be seen there on body cam footage, urging the boy to jump into their waiting arms.
Come on, we right here. Got you, brother. Everybody else in there, brother. Let's go, kid.
Two people downstairs ran out. The boy, home alone while his mother was working, was rushed to the hospital for smoke inhalation and is now doing fine. Authorities still investigating the cause of the fire, but so glad those heroes at the right place at the right time. The Rhode Island prosecutor whose arrest went viral appeared in front of a judge Wednesday. Special Assistant Attorney General Devin Flanagan pleaded no contest at her arraignment in Providence. She was arrested for trespassing outside of a restaurant after being asked to leave. We showed you this moment earlier. Her arrest became infamous when police body camera footage was released where Flanagan repeatedly told officers that she's an attorney general. She has since been placed on unpaid leave from her position. A Beijing-backed espionage campaign targeting U.S. telecom companies may have been way worse than investigators initially understood. That's according to the FBI. They say the Chinese spy operation, dubbed Salt Typhoon, targeted telecom firms in over 80 countries. The Bureau also estimates that more than 1 million call records were obtained, and the hackers gained access to information from systems the federal government uses for court-authorized network wiretapping requests. Investigators are describing the attack as one of the most sophisticated and well-executed espionage operations they've ever seen. The ongoing U.S.-China rivalry in artificial intelligence is a contest that could redefine global power dynamics, according to military experts. The U.S. has utilized its dominance in infrastructure and innovative hardware to maintain a lead, but China's resourceful strategies, our relentless ambition as well, make it one of the most consequential battles of the 21st century. The stakes: economic supremacy, national security, and the ability to shape the future of industries worldwide. This week, our Jan Jeffcoat spoke with Energy Secretary Chris Wright, where they discussed what the Trump administration is doing to stay ahead of the competition.
Let's talk about China and the AI race right now, because what we can't have is China winning that. Talk about the importance of these, of just really having fossil fuel energy so that we can maintain having these centers for AI so that we don't lose to China in the AI race.
Yes, look, our biggest source of electricity in the United States by far is natural gas. Nuclear comes after that, and coal comes after that. Those three things represent the backbone of our grid. In China, the order is reversed. Coal is by far their biggest source of electricity. They also have a lot of nuclear, which they're building rapidly. But it's those 24/7 energy sources. That's what AI runs on. It doesn't run intermittently when the sun comes out from behind a cloud or the wind blows. Those are not going to drive AI. But you're so right. Right now, we have a lead in China in artificial intelligence. But if we lose that lead, it's not just an economic loss to our country. It can undermine the integrity of our country. AI will be huge for national defense. If they're ahead of us in AI, they will become the dominant military power. We just can't have a world like that, which is why, thank God, President Trump got elected. Now we're on a trajectory where we can maintain the lead in AI against China. But we're going to have to be 7 days a week leaning in to make that happen.
For more of Jan's interview or to stay up to date on all of the morning's top headlines, tune in to the National News Desk live from 6 in the morning to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. Democrats are getting a warning from one of their own allies this week. Stop using language that sounds elitist and out of touch, or they say risk helping more Republicans win in 2026. A new memo is calling out what they say are red flag words. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team to break it all down. So that's a perfect way to start. Let's just start with some of the terms that are on the list.
Yeah, so the short version of this really is that the memo is saying Democrats spend billions trying to connect with voters, but the words they sometimes use actually just push people away. So the group that released this memo is called Third Way. They're arguing that terms like birthing person for a pregnant woman, Latinx, microaggression, or the unhoused might sound fine to activists, but in focus groups, voters either don't understand them or they think they're kind of ridiculous.
So the issue really isn't policy. It's about messaging. It's about the words that are used. Third Way is arguing it's the language Democrats are using.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the messaging. I mean, the memo says most Democrats don't actually govern on extreme social positions, but the way they talk about culture and identity issues comes off as kind of elitist or condescending to the average voter. They're talking about words like privilege, cisgender, intersectionality, or even phrases like justice involved instead of just saying criminal. So these terms that they argue are either sounding like academic jargon or kind of just like Democrats are more concerned with protecting criminals over victims. So it's a whole messaging thing that I guess they're trying to correct now.
Yeah, we'll see if it transitions before the midterms.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Emma, thank you.
Thanks.
Later on, Emma will be back to break down the changes happening within political parties as they gear up for the 2026 midterm showdown. Coming up next, Texas lawmakers target abortion pills and those who provide them. Plus, the warnings from first responders to ensure a safe and worry-free holiday weekend. The National News Desk team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Austin, Texas, where lawmakers are considering a new bill that could threaten online abortion pill sellers. The House bill would allow Texans to sue anyone who manufactures, distributes, mails, or provides abortion pills to or from the state. Now doctors are asking for exceptions.
We are physicians. We love the state. We protect the citizens in the state, and we respect the laws of this state. We are already subject to very specific regulatory oversight, 170A, regarding abortion care in our state.
Abortion pills are illegal in the state, but lawmakers say this bill would hold providers accountable. And in Miami Valley, Ohio, all school districts will soon be required to have policies regarding artificial intelligence. The Ohio Department of Education and Workforce is creating a guideline for schools.
Districts need to be thinking about, how do you evaluate tools? What are some of the data privacy concerns? How do you test things out?
The model is expected to be ready by the end of the year. AI policies must be created by July 1st, 2026. And in King County, Washington, the sheriff's office is urging everyone to be safe this Labor Day weekend, especially on the water.
So statewide, we're seeing more drownings off of paddleboards than any other vessel in the state right now. The first question we'll get, we ask you hey, do you have your life jacket with you? And they will look at us and they'll say, I didn't know I needed one.
State law requires life jackets on all water vessels. Coming up, Southwest Airlines changing policies, how it could make traveling more expensive for those who are plus-sized. And Ford issues a massive recall for a dashboard defect, who's at risk, and the steps for a fix. That's coming up next. Taking a look at the top trending stories on our website right now. You knew it would be this one. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, they're officially engaged. Taylor Swift posting on Instagram with a caption, your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. Also, former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler was sentenced to spend 4 days in jail as a part of a plea deal for a 2024 DUI charge. Cutler will serve his sentence at the end of September. And finally, college football has an adorable new mascot. You got to come here and look at this. This is Bowling Green University's adopted locker room cat named Pudge. So cute. Pudge made his highly anticipated sideline debut Thursday and has since become a viral sensation. Those stories and much more available right now at thenationaldesk.com. Ford is recalling more than 355,000 of its pickup trucks due to a glitch. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says the instrument panel display that could go blank. That would obviously prevent the driver from seeing information, including speed and warning lights. 9 different Ford models are affected, including the 2025 F-150 and F-250 Super Duties. Ford says the issue will be fixed at a dealer with a software update. Southwest Airlines changing its seating policy for plus-size passengers. Starting January 27th, passengers who take up space in the neighboring seat will have to buy an extra ticket, and it might not be refunded. Southwest previously allowed passengers to request an additional seat at the airport with no cost or to book an extra seat with a refund. Still to come here on the National News Desk, the redistricting battle rages on nationwide. The two-state proposal that one lawmaker is calling a win-win solution. You're watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. You can catch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back. The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
I'm honored to have the students from China come here.
A rare 180 from the president sparks backlash from some of his most loyal supporters. The new stance on international students now causing a stir.
We've had long trade negotiations with India. They haven't been particularly productive.
50% tariffs on products from India are officially in effect. How it could help push America's adversaries closer together. Then, dwindling detainees just 2 months after opening the controversial immigration facility that state officials say will soon hold no one. From the nation's capital, this is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Thank you for being here. I'm Dee Gatton, and President Trump is sparking backlash from some of his strongest supporters after saying he would allow hundreds of thousands of Chinese students to study in the U.S. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story from Washington.
During Tuesday's cabinet meeting, President Trump floated giving visas to 600,000 Chinese students to study at American universities.
I'm honored to have the students from China come here, and we're just getting along very well with China.
The figure is more than double the current amount of Chinese students in the U.S. The comments catching many of his supporters off guard. It would be a big shift from the administration's own student visa restrictions.
I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. You'd have, and it wouldn't be the top colleges. It would be colleges that struggle on the bottom. And you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system.
Back in May, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the U.S. would aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields, touting the policy as putting America first, not China. Rubio sat right next to the president as he spoke Tuesday, Trump maintaining he and his Secretary of State are still on the same page.
With that, we check and we're careful and we see who's there, and Marco wants that. We spoke, we're in the same position.
MAGA loyalists jumping in to voice their opposition. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene writing on X, why are we allowing 600,000 students from China to replace our American students' opportunities? We should never allow that. And MAGA influencer Laura Loomer writing, now that we are importing 600,000 CCP spies, what's the point of American students going into STEM? China has long been one of the top 2 countries to send international students to American universities, along with India. Chinese President Xi Jinping's own daughter graduated from Harvard University in 2014. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
A civil rights group has filed a lawsuit to pause the new Texas redistricting map, alleging it violates the Voting Rights Act. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law accused Texas of racially gerrymandering the newly passed map so that it hindered black voters from voting on who they want in office. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed the new maps into law on Friday. Meantime, Utah may be the next state to rework their congressional maps. A state judge ruled lawmakers must redraw them before the 2026 midterm elections. The judge says the map was created with a reduced role of an independent commission to cut down on partisan gerrymandering. New maps need to be finalized by late September. Democrats could pick up a seat in the process. Republican lawmakers are expected to appeal. The California Assembly's top Republican formally introduced his 2-state solution to counter Governor Gavin Newsom's redistricting push. Assemblyman James Gallagher posted this map right there on X. Gallagher's proposal would form a new state made up of 35 inland counties, covering most of Northern California, the Sierra Nevada, Central Valley, and Inland Empire. Heavy blue areas like Los Angeles would be drawn out. Last week, the state legislature approved Governor Newsom's plan to set up a November special election for a ballot measure, letting Democrats redraw congressional lines. A major shift at Florida's controversial immigrant detention center in the Everglades, known as Alligator Alcatraz. The state's emergency management director recently said the population could be down to 0 within days. The decline comes after a federal judge ordered the center to be shut down over environmental concerns. The The state has asked to keep the center open while it appeals that ruling. Governor Ron DeSantis says detainees are being deported or transferred faster, likely because of the ongoing litigation. President Trump's additional tariffs on India taking effect this week, bringing total import taxes on most Indian products coming to the U.S. to 50%. The National News Desk, Atra El-Nishar, reports on how India is responding by turning to America's adversaries.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was one of the first world leaders President Trump hosted at the White House to start his second term.
The relationship with India and with the Prime Minister has never been better.
Flash forward 6 months, not only is that relationship on thin ice as Trump slaps India with 50% tariffs, but strained ties with the U.S. have nudged India closer to one of America's biggest adversaries and a country that India, at least until very recently, considered a rival, China. Modi heading to Beijing this weekend, his first time to China since 2018, to attend a summit hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Beijing and New Delhi, each in the throes of a trade war with Washington, are reopening commerce with each other.
We have remained engaged with the Chinese side to facilitate the resumption of border trade.
Half of Trump's tariffs on India's products are over its purchases of Russian oil.
What President Trump is doing is he's beginning to put more and more pressure on Russia so that we can get the peace deal that he's working so hard to achieve. And the bottom line is that we've had long trade negotiations with India. They haven't been particularly productive.
Last year, the U.S. imported more than $87 billion worth of Indian goods, according to government data. Top products include clothing, pharmaceuticals, and electronics. India calls the tariffs unjustified, saying they won't be made to compromise their interests. Here was their external affairs minister last week.
It's funny that you have people who work for a pro-business American administration accusing other people of doing business.
That business not expected to stop as Russia accounts for more than a third of India's oil imports. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to be in Beijing this weekend with Modi, Xi, and other Asian leaders. And Russian media reports Putin is also expected to visit India sometime before the end of this year. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nishar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
U.S. orders for durable goods dropped nearly 3% in July. That's according to the Census Bureau. It follows a 9.4% fall in June. Economists predicted a steeper decline, and analysts blame reductions in transportation equipment. A positive in the report is an increase in the core measure of durable goods. That means business investment is holding steady despite concerns about Trump's tariffs. Studies show that on average, women have a higher chance of living longer than men. Here's orthopedic surgeon Dr. Vonda Wright's recommendations for women. Focus on getting 130 grams of protein a day. Walk at least 45 minutes a day and lift heavy weights. Prioritize sleep and stabilizing estrogen levels. Lastly, stay connected and social with a group of like-minded friends. Senator Ron Wyden is urging the U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice to conduct an outside review of the federal court's cybersecurity after a major hack. The Oregon Democrat is accusing the judiciary of incompetence, saying that the high court is, quote, covering up its negligence over digital defense. At issue, an intrusion last month where hackers reportedly stole sealed case data from federal district courts. The administrative office of the court said it was taking steps to improve security, but did not give specifics. And also, House Republicans, they have launched an investigation into Wikipedia over alleged organized efforts to inject bias into its platform. The Oversight Committee, led by Representative James Comer and Representative Nancy Mace, sent a letter to the platform's CEO requesting documents and information specifically on foreign operations and academic institutions funded by U.S. tax dollars meant to influence the public's opinion. Wikimedia Foundation, the nonprofit operating the site, said they welcome discussions with the committee over safeguarding the integrity of information on Wikipedia. A left-leaning think tank sent a warning to Democrats about using language that they say isolates voters for fear of losing more ground in Congress in 2026. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the fact-check team to discuss. This comes as Democratic registration trends. They are looking grim.
Yeah.
I know you dug into the data. What did you find?
So the New York Times, they published a piece about this where they analyzed voter registration data that was compiled by L2, which is a nonpartisan data firm. Now, they found that between 2020 and 2024, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in all 30 states that track party registration. They had a net loss of 2.1 million voters. Republicans actually gained 2.4 million. So that obviously contributed to President Trump's overwhelming victory, not just in the Electoral College, but also with the popular vote, which came as a surprise to a lot of people.
And this decline, it even continued into 2025, correct?
Yeah, it's unbelievable to see the numbers here. I mean, there's roughly 160,000 fewer Democrats and 200,000 more Republicans than on Election Day in 2024. That's all according to L2's registration data that was analyzed by the New York Times. And also experts who spoke with the New York Times said that the trend could actually get worse for Democrats before it gets better, kind of showing more of a long-term challenge for the Democratic Party as we head into, these midterms coming up in 2026.
It is an issue that we have been constantly talking about. Emma, thank you so much.
Thanks.
For more on this Fact Check Team topic, including links to their sources, scan that QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com. Still to come, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington, from the Cracker Barrel controversy to the latest on the immigration crackdown by the Trump administration. We'll be right back.
And welcome back. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day, and our team of correspondents reports on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. President Trump's crackdown on illegal migrants continues as ICE touts the, quote, worst of the worst alleged criminals they've arrested since the crackdown began. National correspondent Christine Frizzau, the administration's PR effort comes as critics continue to protest ICE's aggressive enforcement of immigration laws.
Yeah, Steve, on one hand, you've got ICE putting out this new website it calls the worst of the worst. They're posting mugshots and crimes that, a lot of these people from other countries have been convicted of, and yet had been released back into the country. ICE touting that they've arrested them and they're sending them back. This is no surprise because this is one aspect of sort of the immigration crackdown that a lot of people, Democrat, Republican, most Americans are getting behind. They say, yes, it is okay to get criminals out of the country. The problem is a lot of the people that are getting arrested are not, in fact, criminals. And some of these methods, as you mentioned, are raising concerns. You know, you've got a new poll that just came out last week that shows 56% of people oppose the National Guard being sent to the streets of D.C. And this is an effort where other cities, we're hearing from mayors and governors worried about what's going to happen when the National Guard is sent to their cities. Still, you have a White House that is celebrating what it calls the most secure border in our nation's history. Take a listen.
One of the reasons we have such a secure border right now is not only because of the great work the men and women the Border Patrol have done, the president signed executive orders like remain in Mexico and ending catch and release. A part of the success of the most secure border in this nation's history because we're showing the world there's consequences.
Yeah, and some of those consequences include what we saw several months ago, several hundred people who had been arrested being sent to El Salvador. You've got these facilities like Alligator Alcatraz. People are legitimately worried, and they're not coming anymore, and the White House sees this as a win.
National correspondent Christine Frizzau, thank you. Meanwhile, Cracker Barrel extinguishing a firestorm of its own making this past week by reversing its decision to change its logo. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins, the controversy over the rebranding even caught the attention of the Oval Office, with the White House taking some credit for the company's reversal.
It did, Steve. It seemed like earlier this week, Cracker Barrel was all over the internet, viral videos. Everybody had an opinion. Everybody wanted to weigh in. People feel very passionately about this brand. The president himself weighed in on Truth Social, calling Cracker Barrel's rebranding that started this entire firestorm, going out against it and saying, listen to the people, listen to the customers that want you to go back to your old branding. And then later that evening, Cracker Barrel did say they would in fact keep their old logo. So some of the White House employees went to social media saying that, Cracker Barrel did listen to the White House, and President Trump is the one that got this all back to the way it was. But going back to the controversy, so Cracker Barrel's been under this rebrand for a few years now, refreshing their stores, painting the walls, brightening things up. Their sales have been stagnant, so the corporate offices have been trying to figure out what to do. As part of this rebrand, they redid their logo, and they took out the iconic old man sitting on the wicker chair and the barrel, opting for a much simpler logo. And that is what really got the internet up in arms. People were calling to get
the guy and the barrel back onto the logo. And Steve, that's exactly what has happened. Now, stocks dropped significantly by nearly $100 million amid all of this controversy. They've since gained a little bit of that back. So we'll see how that progresses. But a former Cracker Barrel employee did weigh in on the issue and weighed in on Cracker Barrel listening to their customers and going back to their old logo. Take a listen.
I think it fixes part of it. I think it signals to your customers that you're willing to listen to them, which is important. I think for the past few days, I think maybe Cracker Barrel customers have felt like the company is dictating to them what they should like about the brand and where they should connect with the company. And so listening to your customers, I think, signals a good shift in the opposite direction.
And again, the logo change was just part of Cracker Barrel's updating. They also updated their menu. They made a lot of other changes into their stores. So, Steve, it's unclear if all of those changes will stop, if we'll see Cracker Barrel revert to some of its nostalgia that some customers really do love and feel attached to, or if they'll just go back to the logo and keep all the other changes.
Right, and the White House actually putting out a message on X, sort of taking credit for the reversal and thanking Cracker Barrel for going back. Very interesting. National correspondents Kayla Gaskins, Christine Frizzau. Great reporting as always. Thank you for your help. Back to you.
You didn't need a reminder for this, but the NFL, it's officially back. And as the season kicks off next week, there's a new technology that allows you to experience football at a whole different level. The National News Desk, Emma Withrow, breaks down how it all works.
A new kind of TV technology is rolling out across the country. It promises sharper images, interactive features, and even life-saving emergency alerts. It's called NextGen TV. Think of it like upgrading your old video game console to the newest system. The games are the same, but the graphics, speed, and experience are on a whole new level. That's what local broadcasters are doing for television.
We are upgrading our technology to provide a better service to viewers, and that better service can take a variety of forms, better pictures and sound, interactive services, and public safety benefits.
For football fans, that better picture means vivid, lifelike colors and immersive sound. So when your team scores, it feels like you're right there in the stadium.
If you look at the difference between a picture on a television today and a picture on a television with high dynamic range, you will notice the difference immediately. You will see a much more vivid color palette, much more lifelike images. It's a real game changer, we think, for over-the-air television. I think sports are one of the most visible use cases for it.
And here's the kicker. It's free. All you need is a NextGen Ready TV or a simple converter box and antenna to bring the upgraded game day experience to your living room.
I'm saving $100 a month just by using over-the-air television that's also connected to the internet. Of course, everybody's situation is a little bit different, but if you're in the market for a new TV, you should be looking for the logo, the NextGen TV logo.
This new technology is revolutionizing the broadcast news industry and the way we experience TV at home or on our phones. So if you want to learn more about NextGen TV, just check out watchnextgentv.com.
Coming up, why a South Carolina mom who went viral for managing a Burger King single-handed is now fired, and what she's planning to do in response. Then the new scam targeting parents that uses information stolen in a nationwide data breach of school software. We're back in 90 seconds. This is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, we have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. And we start with scammers targeting parents after a school data breach in Utah.
The challenge that you have is any time you lose data and it's some sort of breach, someone's going to find a way to exploit that, right? And if they can't make money directly off of that data, then they're going to use it to make money indirectly.
Technology director with the school district, Jeremy Cox, says they've received reports of suspicious phone calls by scammers pretending to offer ACT test prep in exchange for money.
scams like that where you're using social engineering techniques, establishing trust with a target, data can be the key to making that happen.
The information taken included student and parent contact details and personal data. This did not include social security numbers.
At this point, it's really out of our control because the information is out there and people will use it and abuse it in the ways that they want.
Washington County says they initially locked PowerSchool out of their systems until they could prove the breach was closed.
Screwworm is like something out of a horror movie. It's a flesh-eating maggot. I mean, I couldn't get any worse than that.
The last screwworm outbreak in the United States was in the 1970s. Back then, the Texas Department of Agriculture used sterile flies to eradicate the pest. Now, even though that fly hasn't migrated across the southern border yet, Sid Miller says it's already too close for comfort.
We need 600 million a week of the sterile flies, and we only have 100, so it's going to take 3, probably 4 years to ramp up production facilities to get to that number. We can't wait 4 years. I mean, we have to stop this now while we've got it bottled up in a small geographical area.
Evergreen fired me because I've been late because of my kids, bro. My kids come first. And now when y'all gonna watch my kids? Y'all don't pay for no babysitter, no nothing.
Nakia Hamilton, crying tears of frustration, posting this video on TikTok earlier this month after being fired from Burger King on Broad River Road in Columbia. Hamilton went viral on social media in June for running the restaurant solo. She says the company wrongfully fired her after she was on approved time off and was scheduled to work the day she was coming back.
So I told them, I'm not gonna make it in time. I don't see how y'all schedule me at 12 knowing I'm leaving Charlotte at 11, and it take an hour and 30 minutes to get to work.
She says the franchise owner, Matt O'Doherty, went to look at her time logs for the past 2 weeks and told her she was late too often. Hamilton says O'Doherty lacked consideration and gave her a final write-up. Hamilton says Burger King and O'Doherty used absence issues as a way to get rid of her. Burger King says no one should work alone and they're disappointed their policy wasn't followed. Hamilton says she's planning to sue the company.
Still ahead here, energy drinks see a spike in sales, the narrowing price gap that companies say they're benefiting from. Also, why cybersecurity experts are urging you to use an email alias next time you go online shopping. Cybersecurity experts say you should create email aliases to stop companies from tracking your online shopping. By creating an email alias, you can protect your information, you can reduce spam. These forward messages to your primary address, making it easier to manage incoming communications and avoid data breaches. Energy drink companies say they're benefiting from the narrowing price gap between their drinks and other caffeinated beverages. Celsius telling the Wall Street Journal its customers see more value compared to other drinks like coffee or soda. Analysts say that's due to beverage companies raising their prices to offset their own higher costs to the point that they're almost the same cost as energy drinks. They add women and younger consumers are driving energy drink growth as they look for a healthy kick. A London hospital opened a time capsule buried by Princess Diana in the 90s. Look at this. Inside was a snapshot of the decade, including a Kylie Minogue CD and other artifacts. The fact that we have to call that an artifact now. The items provided by children, they were buried at the Great Ormond Street Hospital, which Diana previously served as president. The time capsule was dug up early to make way for construction. The unveiling comes just days before the 20th anniversary of Princess Diana's death on August 31st, 1997. That'll be all for us on the weekend edition of the National News Desk, America's News Now. Don't forget, you can catch us live from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Just check your local listings. You can also watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thanks for watching the weekend edition of the National News Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and from all of us here, we hope you have a great week.